the new WBC Junior Lightweight Champion of the World.
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous.
For a second, the rematch. Robson Conceicao beat O'Shaquie Foster in controversial manner.
Obrigado, família. Somos campeões do mundo.
I want the rematch. Rematch. ASAP.
What's up, fight fans? Welcome to my channel. This is Johnny, and in today's video, we're going to be going over the upcoming fight this weekend. Title fight between Foster and Robson Conceicao. Talk a little bit about their first matchup, in which I'll sit here today and tell you, in my opinion, was one of the biggest robberies I've ever witnessed live. We're going to go over those statistics from fight one only a few months ago, and I'm going to talk about the matchup this coming weekend and give you guys a little bit about the odds, talk a little bit about what to expect from both fighters. Guys, before we continue, I want to say thank you to all the new subscribers. Thank you to everybody who's been with me since day one. And if you haven't already, could you please hit the notification button? What this will allow me to do, every time I create something new, you'll be the first to be notified. Guys, you know me well enough to know that I tend to stay away from adding my own opinion or emotions about fighters. I respect the game enough to understand that the combat sport itself can be life or death. So the last thing the world needs is another person giving their opinion on who he thinks is the best fighter in the world or is trash or garbage per se, like a lot of casuals speak about. But if you were to rewind the clock to the first fight only a few months back of Foster versus Conceicao, Foster was the champion at 130 pounds. Conceicao, the Brazilian Olympian, was the challenger, and we were streaming this fight live, and Foster dog walked him. I had Foster winning 10 rounds to 2, and he ends up losing a decision victory, losing his belt, in which you saw his reaction in the ring. He was in tears. We were shocked. And I think this is a testament, an issue with boxing. When we have robberies that are as shocking as Foster versus Conceicao won, I think it's important for the media to confess, the mainstream media, the big boxing sites, but they didn't. All the big boxing sites were still writing about how Conceicao edged out a close split decision. He fought a hard-fought victory against Foster. No, he didn't. He got beat up for 12 rounds. He went in there and did not want to win the fight. He didn't want to engage. He didn't want to put himself in trouble. I just rewatched the fight. So right now, we're going to go over the statistics, the punch stats from fight one, and figure out why this was the biggest robbery, in my opinion, over the last 5 years in boxing. And going into the fight this weekend, it's no wonder that Las Vegas has the champion, Conceicao, as a 4-1 underdog. So at the very end, I'm going to give you my opinion on what's going to happen. I'll wait till the end of the week to give you my prediction video, but stay tuned. Guys, when we look at the total punch stats of the fight, throughout the 12 rounds, Foster throws 435, landing 109 at a 25% clip. Conceicao throws 701, landing 76 at 11% clip. Conceicao landed 11% of his total punches compared to Foster's 25%. Conceicao couldn't find Foster. Foster's defensive tactics, his footwork, his movement, his ring IQ was way up here. Conceicao wanted to just hold him in a corner and punch, but we know the sport of boxing is boxing. It's not called knockout. Now the frustration on Conceicao's part, and the fans of Conceicao were like, Foster was running, but he wasn't. He was moving and not getting hit and still hitting Conceicao at a higher rate. And this is why I feel Vegas has those odds for Foster being the 4-1 favorite, because the adjustments that will be made is Foster will let his hands go a bit more, and in my opinion, he's not gonna leave any question up to the judges. He wins 10-2 rounds and they still took the win out of his pocket, so expect him to be much more aggressive, but still defensively minded. Now let's take a closer look at the jabs thrown. Throughout the fight, Foster throws 263 jabs, landing 51 at a 19% clip. Conceicao throws 388 jabs, landing 27 at a 7% clip. So when you look at the lack of efficiency, the lack of accuracy on Conceicao's part, total punches landed 11%, total jabs landed 7%. What does this tell you? He couldn't find Foster. How do you take the belt off of a champion if you don't hit the champion? How do you leave a fight when you lose every round because you can't land a punch? The only explanation on this, and this is as controversial as I'll ever get, is that the judges were fixed, or they didn't watch the fight, or they gave a lot of points for pressure. I always say this, I don't think pressure wins you fights. Now, we looked at the Beterbiev Bivol matchup and we saw how that fight played out. And I saw a lot of the boxing mainstream sites talk about this. To be specific, we had Malignaggi and Chris Algieri talking about pressure doesn't win you fights. But the pressure that Beterbiev was putting on Bivol wasn't the pressure Conceicao was putting on Foster. Bivol was landing shots against Beterbiev, forcing Beterbiev to punch and fight him back, and then Beterbiev was adding the pressure to Bivol, and Bivol didn't want to stand in the pocket and trade, and he was the one moving throughout the fight. The pressure, and they gave obviously the victory to Beterbiev. The pressure in this fight was Conceicao pushing forward against Foster, but not having the footwork skills, not having the angles, not having the speed, and not having the accuracy to even touch Foster. So in this case, the judges gave that pressure from Conceicao as a victory, which in my opinion makes it even more shocking. Let's look at the power shots. Overall, throughout that fight one, Foster throws 172, landing 58 at 33%, and Conceicao throws 313, landing 49 at a 16%. So in all of Conceicao's punch totals, his total punches, his jabs, and his power shots, he was below 15%. Jabs were at 7%, total punches were at 10%. He couldn't land a punch, and he still won the title. It's shocking. Somebody rewatch the fight and battle me on this. This is a mountain and a hill I'll die on. I've never met one person to actually say that Conceicao won this fight. Now, I'd like to talk to the judges personally. One judge gave it to Foster, two gave it to Conceicao, which is wild. That is going to be an interesting storyline. So if you have nothing to do this weekend, this is why you watch this fight, because it has some vitriol behind it. You have a champion who feels he was unrightfully stolen from his belt in Foster, and he's going to be fighting differently. I feel he's going to use his defense like he always does. He's going to use his feet, but I think he's going to make some adjustments and throw more and make Conceicao pay a bit more when Conceicao misses. In terms of where Conceicao has to better his game at 35 years old, you get what you see. You're going to see a guy who wants to stand and trade, but he doesn't do enough to set his feet up. He doesn't do enough to put his body in the proper position to land the shots against a mover like Foster. And this is why Vegas, like I said already twice in this video, has the champion as a 4-1 underdog. So stay tuned later in the week. I'm going to do my prediction video. I'm going to tell you where to put your money on. Do you guys think Foster lost that first fight? And going into this weekend, who's going to leave with the belt? Will Conceicao keep it in Brazil, or will Foster take it back to the US? Let me know in the comment section below.